Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Preserves. On today's video, we're doing part 2 on the conversion of the Hammond AO-35 into an amplifier for guitar. And I've done some things off camera. So let me show you where we're at with that, and I'll show you what we've done, and we'll go from there. Okay, so first of all, what we've gone ahead and done here is we've drilled all of our holes. We got our input jack here. We've got our tone stack here with our volume knob being here, then treble, mid, and bass. We ended up putting our pilot light right here and our on-off switch right here. Then on the bottom we put our output 8 ohm here. We drilled a hole and put a grommet here, and we put our fuse holder here. Now I've gone ahead and used some of this, it's super thin, very thin brass shim stuff, and glued to the back and the front to cover up these big holes. It's not like super thick stuff, but it gives it some kind of pleasing aesthetic to it. And there is some scratches right here, and I did kind of cut it weird right here, but like I said, it's my first one, and so we're going with that. I found some all brass nuts for retainers on this, and I did end up going with not this red one, but I ended up going with the one that I purchased, and it does fit right there, barely, but it does. Now let's go over what I've done on the inside here. Let me zoom you in a little bit so you can see exactly what's going on. Okay, so as you can see, I've got capacitors here. Basically what I've done is I clipped this out, this big can capacitor right here. I've clipped it out, and I added, all I did was clip it out and then add the wires to their respective values on the chassis. This back here, I have made this whole thing one big long ground terminal, and I had to extend this purple wire. That's why you see, let me zoom you out just a tad. This purple wire right here, I extended that to come all the way down to this last lug. It wasn't quite long enough, so I just extended it with some J-hooking, and then soldered it together, and then put a piece of shrink wrap over it. I've gone ahead and installed a 2-post lug here. One goes directly to ground, the other one will come in, and this yellow wire will connect this to our tone stack. We're following Brad's schematic here, Brad the guitarist. We've got this 390 right here, which is this gray one down here on the bottom, and we've gone ahead and did what Brad the guitarist did and put a 25 microfarad right here capacitor in line with it. And then what we have also done, well, basically we've, let me zoom you out just a bit more. So this capacitor and this right here, we did this 25 microfarad across this to ground and to the plate, or excuse me, to the cathode. And on the other side here, it's was supposed to be a 0.1 meg, and this schematic says that it's a 1 meg here. Even on my good one it says 1 meg, but it was not reading a 1 meg. And so we went ahead and changed that out as well to a 100K, the same as Brad the Guitologist did, and that's going to the plate. And then all the other resistors that were up here on this, we've removed them, moved the orange wire from this turret to this turret. Now this turret is not being used. This gray wire, which was down here at the bottom of this, and we replaced that capacitor as well. We've taken the gray wire, lifted it from the bottom terminal, and moved it to the top, and removed the resistor that was down here at the bottom, and then put the wire up to the top. So now that circuit is finished there. And so where we're at now, start doing our tone circuit now, and that's where we're at. So stay tuned. I'll get you all set up, and we'll get our components out of what we're gonna do here. And okay, let me show you where we're at. So we've got our wire right here, this shielded cable. We're not soldered in on our jack yet, but this shielded cable comes in. There's a 68K resistor down here. We've got our coupling cap here that comes over, and it runs to our little turret board. We've got a 100K resistor that comes off of that, not soldered in. None of this is soldered in right here. Then we've got our 250 picofarad that comes over to our treble potentiometer on lug number 1. On our wiper, we have a 250 picofarad with a 820K resistor to our lug number 1 of our volume pot. And that is going to the plate. And then our grid right here has got that 68K shielded cable that will come over, and we'll connect it here. And then from here to here, we'll put a 1 meg resistor from there to there, and then that will go to ground right here. And then we can start wiring in our tone circuit. This right here, I did this because it was easier to do off camera, because all these are like really close and personal soldering joints, and it my head would have just been in the way of soldering any of this. So you wouldn't have been able to see that anyway. And so that's where we're at right now. And so we're going to go ahead and get our 1 meg in, our shielded cable that comes to the grid, wired up to here and here, and then we're going to get a lead. So let me zoom you out, and then we'll start wiring some of this up, and then I'll explain. This is a this coupling cap is a .02 coupling cap, and I've gone through and researched a bunch of stuff because I couldn't. I wanted to get it right, you know what I'm saying, and didn't want to show you some stuff. This little circuit right here that comes from the treble to the volume is actually a bright cap, and then this comes down, and this is the actual that goes to the coupling cap. And all of our other caps that come from our middle and base potentiometers, they'll come in and get J-hooked to this 100K, and I'll put a piece of shrink wrap on that, and so we're good there. So first, what we're going to do is we're going to strip our wire back, measure it so we're not running big long leads, get our 1 meg resistor on here, and that, and then yep, that's where we're at. Okay, so here's where we're at. Let me show you. Stand it up like this. Maybe move you out a little bit. Okay. So we've got a jumper from our wiper of our base pot to the number 3 lug of our treble. From our treble, we've got a 0.01 or a 0.1 microfarad cap at 630 volts to this 100K resistor. On the other side of that resistor, we've got this 250 picofarad coming down and running directly to our terminal at the connecting point of our 100K resistor. Then we move over, and that's connected to our wiper, or excuse me, to our first lug. And then on our wiper, we've got a 120 picofarad with a 820K resistor going to the first lug of our volume pot. Then our volume pot comes across and goes to the grid pin number 7. We've got our 1 meg jumpering from our grid with a 68K grid stopper to the tip of our jack, and then that goes, the 1 meg goes to the sleeve, and the sleeve goes to our ground lug. We have to connect this to our ground. We've got a 66.8K resistor going to ground off of our number 3 lug of our middle, and then we've got a 0.04 capacitor going to this junction right here with the 100K resistor, and then that is jumpered to our base number 1 lug to the wiper of the middle of the mids. This lug is not used and this lug is not used, so we're gonna get all that soldered up and go from there. So I'm gonna start with this junction here, and then move over and down. All right. Stand this up. Move that out of the way. You guys aren't going to be able to see this very well, but just know. I think I got her. Let's check it. And on we go with the solder. So I looked at the schematic. We had to jump from the first lug to the wiper before we went to ground. So yeah. So we're just moving on. I want to fix that lug just a tad. That one looks kind of like a cold solder joint. There we go. Come on, buddy. There we go. Let's solder this one first so we can move it out of the way to get the other one. Perfect. Alright, so that is our tone circuit. Let me zoom you into this and show you where we're at. Okie dokie. So, we've got all of our tone stack done. All of our bass, middle, and treble are coming through right here into this 100K resistor, and then that is coming down through the coupling capacitor into the plate right here. And then we've got our 1 meg resistor from the tip to ground, which is connected to our ground point directly to the chassis. We've got our jumper from number 1 to the ground lug going directly to the chassis. We can actually clip this out now. Oh, Twisty McPherson. We've got our bright from our wiper of our treble to number 1 lug of our volume pot, and then our volume pot comes down and connects to the grid with pin number 7. On here, this is coming through a 68K resistor going to the other side of the grid here. And that's pretty much the tone circuit. And that, so I also am gonna solder up these connections here, and then that's gonna be all of our input and output done. And on the next video we're going to work on our power section, which will entail running heater wires, well, from the heater to our pilot. And then next video, like I said, we'll run our power cable in, and connect our fuse and everything, and do the next power it up on the Variac and see where we're at. So I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in and watching this video. We're gonna just button this up, and then on the next video we'll get into the power section of this and get everything dialed in, and hopefully we can power up and maybe play through it a little bit and see where we're at. And with that, peace, guys.